I'm thrilled to introduce and welcome our next presenter, Scott Roen from American Express. He is a VP of Digital Marketing and Innovation. He's worked at American Express for the past 10 plus years, and specifically he's been working with the open community for the past 3 years. And we are just so thrilled to have him here today to tell us about Open Forum, the community for small businesses, small business owners, and really how it's evolved over the past several years. And we're thrilled to welcome Scott. So, everyone, here's Scott.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. It's good to be here. It's kind of funny for me to be here. I think if you had told me 2 or 3 years ago that American Express would be coming to LinkedIn and teaming up to help small businesses and entrepreneurs move forward and really try to move the entire economy forward, I probably would have thought you guys were crazy. LinkedIn, they're gonna be the ones to help us do this. So I'm hoping I can walk you through that journey a bit, and that you don't look at me the way I probably would have looked at you a couple of years and be like, that guy's nuts. But I do want to talk through a little bit about how we got here. But first, I thought it probably makes sense just to tell you a little bit about where I sit. So I'm within Open, the business unit that's focused on small businesses and entrepreneurs within American Express. And we've been doing this for 25 years. This business unit, obviously American Express has been around for 163 years, but we've had a dedicated unit to helping entrepreneurs for the last 25. We've got over 1,000 employees. This is a really important business for us. And we've built this business to have millions of customers, millions of business owners use our products and services every single day. And so when we think about our mission and what we set out to do, it's not really to go out and get the next customer. I mean, we of course want to do that. We've got a few acquisition people in the house here, so I gotta say, we want that next customer. But we're really trying to tackle a bigger issue. And the bigger issue that's out there is that this customer base, small business owners, they fail. They go out of business at a rate that's not acceptable to us. So the fact is, if you look at government data, 56% of businesses fail within 4 years. So this isn't great for our business when you think about it, because we make money when these people go out and these business owners go out and buy stuff. And if they're not succeeding, that's not good for us. And it's even worse if they go out of business and they don't pay us back. So we've got this great situation where we have this very altruistic mission of helping entrepreneurs and business owners, but it's tied directly to our economic model. So we've focused very much on how do we help business owners, how do we help entrepreneurs succeed? And that's where we spend a lot of our time. And this isn't new, we've been doing this for a long time. Back in 2006, we started by trying to take this really important insight, which is what we found through our research was that the difference between success and failure for a lot of these companies wasn't a big idea, it was good decisions. When businesses make good decisions, they succeed. And so we tried to provide an insight into successful entrepreneurs. We brought in people like Seth Godin and Richard Branson, and we gave our customers, business owners, a way in to see how they made their decisions. Why were they successful? What advice could they share? And we hosted events like this, where all of our business owners came together, and they actually got to hear these great insights. But even more importantly, when there were breaks, everyone would talk amongst themselves and share the advice. And while no matter how big of a room we put together, we packed it. And so we started to realize that if our mission is to really help all business owners, all entrepreneurs across this country, that we had to move beyond a physical location and open this up, make it more accessible. And so we pushed this online. And so Open Forum we started working on this back in 2006 and launched in 2007. And I think the timing of it's kind of important when you think about it. In 2006, when we were building this, Facebook hadn't even left the college campus. Okay, it's kind of crazy to think about that now. But the reality is we weren't pursuing this because social was this great new thing and that it was hot. We're doing this because this was a real need. Business owners and entrepreneurs needed advice, they needed insights, and they didn't have a place to get it. So we brought this online, and it was growing. It was successful. We were very happy with it through 2007 into 2008. And then something happened in 2008, which I'm sure all of you, considering the industry we're in and talking about, can remember. 2008 was a tough year. The bottom really fell out. And it was a really important time for us because what we saw as we were dealing with our own issues, I'm sure you could look back and remember where you were in 2000 and 2009 and the challenges that you were facing. But for entrepreneurs, it was worse. Entrepreneurs had their revenue, their sales, almost stop immediately. And their access to cash flow, their access to capital dried up really quickly. So they were struggling and they were looking for help and they were looking for answers and they had really no place to go. And they found Open Forum. And so while we were struggling ourselves to figure out our path forward, we saw more and more business owners coming to Open Forum, looking for advice, sharing amongst themselves, and we realized there was something really interesting going on here. And so we started to plow more resources into this and try to see how we could have a bigger impact. And to bring this to a life a little bit, I thought I'd just show you a quick commercial we ran at that time, a spot that we ran to show what we were trying to do then. I'm just going to run this real quickly.
During times like these, it seems like the world will never be the same. But there is a light beginning to shine again. The spark began where it always begins. At a restaurant downtown, in a shop on Main Street, a factory around the corner. Entrepreneurs like these are the most powerful force in the economy. They drive change, and they'll relentlessly push their businesses to innovate and connect. As we look to the future, they'll be there ahead of us, lights on, showing us the way forward. This is just the beginning of the reinvention of business. And while we're sure we don't know all the answers, we do know one thing for certain. We want to help. Come see what the beginning looks like at openforum.com.
We knew we didn't have all the answers, but we did want to be there to help. And Open Forum really provided this platform for us to not only help directly, but really allow all of these entrepreneurs to come together and help each other. But quickly we saw the volume coming in, and so we needed to staff up. And we started recruiting more and more experts and advisors, people that had been there and done that, to help all of these entrepreneurs struggling during this time. And so you can see a bunch of these here, but we scaled up to over 200 experts very quickly to be able to offer that advice that so many people were seeking. And there was something that we learned going through this process, and we didn't realize there was an actual name for it at the time, but apparently Procter & Gamble has coined this phrase that we had been operating. It's called Reciprocal Altruism. And it was a really interesting point. It's been a guiding principle for a lot of the things that we've done since then, which is if you authentically give something away for free without expecting anything in return, and that's the important part, is that you're not expecting something back, that you get so much more. And that's exactly what we were doing here. We had this platform, we were bringing in these experts. We weren't doing this just for card members. This was open to anyone. We weren't asking them to do anything. We weren't trying to sell any products, and people greatly, greatly appreciated it. And of course, like I'm sure all of you, we measure this very closely. We started to look at the people that were coming to Open Forum, what were they doing? And prospects, people that weren't our customers already, started to convert. We weren't trying to sell them products, but they started converting, actually at 5 times the rate than we had seen on the broader web. We started to see customers that came, and we knew who our customers were because we cookie them when they log in. We were able to see definitively their loyalty increase. We could see their actual spend patterns increase after they started participating in Open Forum. We weren't asking them to, they just were. And we care a lot about, of course, our brand, so we monitor a lot of brand metrics, Net Promoter Score being one of the most important ones to us. We saw double-digit increases in people's Net Promoter Score once they started participating in Open Forum. So a broad array of metrics that we were looking at, everything was going up. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. We were trying to offer something very valuable in a time of need, and entrepreneurs, business owners, they appreciated it. And they felt a greater loyalty to us, and they wanted to use more of our products and services, and they told their other colleagues and friends. So this was a really empowering insight through the years as we worked on this, and it really gave us confidence in reinvesting and spending more time here. And so before I talk about where we moved to, since we were just launching the new open forum, I thought it'd be good to ground you in what we've been up to up until this point. So this is what open forum looked like up until yesterday. And we had been publishing, and will continue to publish, a lot of articles and videos, infographics, other content that were really helpful and useful to business owners. We're actually publishing more than 50 pieces every week. Built up an editorial rigor and a publishing platform to be able to do this, and work with a number of different partners, some of which are here today to do this. But the other thing that we started to see was how LinkedIn had been really helping us grow. So I don't know if you can quite make this out. The contrast isn't great on this screen, but you could see up here the LinkedIn shares at the top. We've got 1,300 on this recent article that was published. And I didn't just cherry pick this and say, oh, I got to speak in front of a LinkedIn audience. I better pick one that's got a lot of LinkedIn shares. We truly see LinkedIn outperforming Facebook, Twitter, Google+ for open forum. And so as I was putting this together, I thought I better take a closer look at the data rather than just grab one screenshot and say this is a fact. So I looked at the last 30 days of our most shared content on open forum. And not only has LinkedIn outperformed all of our other social networks for open forum, but it outperformed them combined. So when you take a look at our top 10 articles and add up Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn exceeded all of them combined. So I don't know if that's a surprise to you. Maybe having just sat through a couple of the other presentations, that's obvious. But for me, it was pretty surprising. I hadn't really expected to see that much value driven from this community into our base. And it wasn't just traffic. If you can see at the top, there's a lot of comments on here. What we saw is when we implemented the LinkedIn authentication to comments on open forum, commenting almost doubled overnight. So we're getting this great traffic that was very engaged, and it was very clearly specific to what we were trying to serve. So we were really happy to see the power of LinkedIn's network with this community that we had been building on open forum. And I think that's an important distinction. It's something that I've kind of learned over the last several months to a year, that there is this difference between community and network. And when put together, the power is really astronomical. The best way that I was explaining to someone recently, I was trying to make sense what the difference, because even myself, I used to use the word social network or professional network and community almost interchangeably. But after having my second child a few years ago, moved out of the city and moved into the suburbs and moved into a town called Ridgewood, New Jersey. And when I moved into Ridgewood, I was immediately part of the Ridgewood community. And there's lots to offer in the Ridgewood community. I was really happy to be there, but I actually didn't know anything that was in town. Didn't know where the pool was, the golf course, the recycling area. Like, I didn't know anything. So I tapped into my network. I actually worked with colleagues and that were connected with me on LinkedIn and Facebook that lived in the town of Ridgewood. And so it wasn't until I started tapping into my network that I was able to unlock the value of this community. And they, of course, introduced me to other people within their network, within the community. And the more people that I built this network with within this community, the more this community worked for me. So a little sidebar, but for me that's been really important, because when you can put these two things together, and I'm sure you all have your own communities, when you can put the power of what these social networks like LinkedIn can bring to you with a very strong, specific community, you really unlock that. And we saw that on Open Forum, and it was the reason why, when we decided we were going to move forward and reimagine what the next Open Forum would look like, that we wanted to more heavily integrate ourselves with LinkedIn. So let me move into that and talk a little bit about this new Open Forum and what we're trying to do here. So please keep in mind, we just launched, literally just launched. So I was going to do a live demo, but my team was yelling at me. They're like, we've been busting our butts for the last week. They've been up around the clock. Like, we're still trying to work through image sizing and bugs here and there. So like, you cannot do a live demo. You cannot. So I've got this beautiful PowerPoint that you can barely see. So I agreed to them. They worked so hard. They worked so hard, so I said I won't do a live demo. But does anyone in the audience have one of these devices? If it has an internet connection on your phone, you could just type in openforum.com. And I wouldn't be technically demoing the site. But you could pretty much see the experience. So anyone on my team, do not tell them I'm doing this. As the traffic increases, they're going to be like, what the hell's going on? But seriously, it is open right now, and you can take a look. For those of you that don't have a device that's connected to the internet, we'll talk afterwards about that. That's a separate issue. But you can look up here, and you can see that first and foremost, the most important part, you can see that we're really trying to home in on our purpose. And our purpose is to help entrepreneurs exchange advice and make smarter decisions. That's what we're trying to do, because we know, based on all of our research and what we found, is business owners are making better decisions, they have a higher likelihood to succeed. And if they succeed, that's good for their business, of course, it's good for the local economy, and because these small businesses, local businesses, drive 2/3 of the jobs in this country and over half of the GDP, it's good for all of us. So this is really important. We've really focused in on here. You can see now, not just the content that we're creating, but the type of content. At the top, you can see there's expert advice. We're still going to be producing the articles and the videos and the infographics and the slideshows, everything that could be useful to them. We still want to put our energy behind that. But we're also highlighting much more now what is working for others in the community, this user-generated, this community content, and enabling you to ask for advice. And we're starting to pull together all three types of content so that we can have a bigger impact. You can, of course, see the more modular design and the community highlights. The other thing, especially if you're flipping through it right now, we've tried to bring the people very much visually up front. So everyone that's producing this content has some sort of expertise, is an entrepreneur, is a business owner. We want to make sure that not only is that very clear, but because of LinkedIn, you can connect with those people, you can follow those people, you can actually learn and talk and build a relationship with them. So this is just the scroll down here. You can see it very advice-oriented. One of the things that we're very excited about is we're now seeing very clearly in real time the challenges that business owners are facing. And they're asking for advice. And we now have the opportunity not only to try to work to answer those questions and give them their advice within Open Forum, but we can take the challenge that they have and push it out through LinkedIn. So one of the things that was mentioned earlier, but we're now right now piloting the LinkedIn Today sponsored content. And the reason why that's really exciting for us is we've seen the benefit. Open Forum is one of the earlier users, our publishers on LinkedIn Today, and we saw all this traffic coming through very organically. But now to be able to see the challenge that someone is facing and potentially be able to expedite the number of experts, over 200 million people within LinkedIn, to be able to expedite the process of getting them the answer that they need is really powerful. So that mechanism is really exciting for us to start to pilot and test. Here's an article page. Again, you start to see we're trying to visually bring some of the entrepreneurs to life. You can also see the authors here, Donna. You can follow them so that you can really personalize or customize the experience for you. And start to engage with them. You can't see the commenting in community here, but that's the next slide you can get into. So here's my feed. I took a screenshot, I don't know, yesterday or the day before. It's hard to make out, but if you're in there, the top part of this is the engagement mode, which is you can give and get advice. This is something that we see all entrepreneurs doing in the offline world. People are constantly pinging people via email or phone or going out to lunch. They're searching for answers. They're searching for the help for the challenges they're facing. And there's really never been a place before where they can do this at scale. If you look at some areas that we've looked at for inspiration, from YPO to Y Combinator, there's been many mentor programs over the years. YPO has been around for over 50 years. Obviously, Y Combinator much younger, but they're very successful programs, but they're closed and offline. What we're really trying to do is take a lot of the insights from these programs and open them up and make them online so it's more accessible to more businesses across the nation. And so that's what we're trying to go for. We don't have everything right now. We are very much in beta mode, and we'll be continuing to release new code almost on a weekly basis for the coming months. So if you're in there and you're playing around with it, please let me know if you have any suggestions or thoughts. But we are very excited to be able to facilitate more advice and to be able to expedite the process of helping people overcome the challenges that they're facing. So I thought I'd end this piece of it, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A with a quick video. This video I'm going to show next was something we put together as we were working on the project on our small team. So it's a lot of the changes that we've made during aren't necessarily reflected here, but hopefully it'll bring it to life what we're attempting to do here.
Think for a moment about just how loud a single moment has become. Innovation has accelerated potential in every industry, inspiring independent thinkers and creative minds to take more risks, dream bigger dreams, and become their own boss. The independent spirit is what makes every entrepreneur tick. But with limited time, it can also isolate them from their own community, preventing access to the inspiration of their peers. Introducing the new Open Forum, a social network for entrepreneurs. Inspire and be inspired by your peers and mentors. Discover what works for others, share what works for you, and connect to the pulse of the entrepreneurial community in a single moment.
So that's Open Forum. Discover what works for others, share what works for you. That's what we're aiming to do. So why don't I pause there and see if there are any questions. I don't know if you had some already, or we can just open up for a Q&A.
Great, I can open it up. Thank you, Scott. That was really great presentation. I know you've been in beta with Open Forum for the past several months. I guess what are some of the biggest learnings? Some of the what are the things you've learned over the past couple of months? We'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Wow, we've learned a ton. So we've done an incredible amount of research along the way, both formal, quantitative, as well as just talking with entrepreneurs face to face. And it's incredible the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis. Most of the real issues that they come into contact with is when there are decisions that have big impact on them but are outside of their expertise. When they're small decisions, they make them, they're fine. Or when they're within their expertise, they can deal with it. But there are oftentimes areas where entrepreneurs are dealing with a challenge that is outside that expertise, and they don't know where to turn, and it's pressing. So one of the interesting parts for us is that they told us time and time again that they want to have access to people to be able to have these conversations, but they also want them to be private and for them to be able to connect with them on their own terms. And so we spend a lot of time trying to build these closed one-to-one connections. And through the process, we started seeing the user behavior, and they weren't actually using these features that we're building that they were specifically asking for. They were what we saw were people very comfortable posting the questions that they were seeking, asking for advice in the public format. We gave everyone the option: post this to the entire community, post this to a small group of people, or do a direct message. And overwhelmingly, people were posting this to the broader community. So it was a very odd insight that when we sat down and talked to people, they're like, no, I need privacy, I need the control, I need all this. So we spent a lot of time building that, and then no one was using it. Now, we still think people want that, but rather than us build the entire product around that, we're really looking towards other opportunities to work with potentially LinkedIn or other providers that can provide that direct link, but that there's a lot more comfort in having conversation in a known conversation, meaning you're not anonymous, in a space where many people can see the question that you're asking. So it was a very interesting insight, because had we spent all of our time following exactly what the customer was telling us, we would have ended up in the wrong place. Yes.
Out there. Intuit, other financial services, not necessarily financial services, Chamber for Commerce. What's your value prop, and how do you tie this to the Amex brand?
So great question. So first of all, we don't necessarily need to be the only community out there. Our higher purpose and mission really is to help entrepreneurs succeed. We have a great relationship with chambers across this country and work with them very closely. We just had a big event in DC with them. So we don't necessarily have to be, there doesn't have to be a winner in this per se. What we're trying to do is figure out how we can complement what's already out there in the marketplace. I think what differentiates us specifically is that we've been at this for a while, and we've built trust with some very influential and smart entrepreneurs, and they have been very active for many years within our community. And the community is only as strong as the people that are in it. And so I think our brand and many of the things that we do have given us the opportunity to bring in some of these experts to provide that advice. And I think a lot of the smaller communities, or the ones that haven't been around as long, haven't quite built that up yet. I hope they do, because the more that's out there to be able to aid this, I think the better it is for everyone. But that's, I think, one of our major differentiators, is that we are open for anyone, and that we've built some great participants over the years.
How do you actually make money, if not by your company investment into this open forum?
Yeah, so I work within the issuing side of the house and the credit card lingo, which is we offer up our charge and credit products to business owners. And we make money when people use our products. They buy goods and services to run their organization. Open Forum is not dedicated exclusively for them, but as I mentioned, what we found is that people that are engaged in Open Forum tend to, one, want our products and services. If you're a successful entrepreneur, you need a product, a charge product or a credit card product. So we've seen card acquisition through that. And we've seen loyalty grow of our other services when people are engaged in this community. We've got this unique opportunity to be able to track our customer base and their behavior within the community, and we've definitively proven that. And as I also mentioned, our brand metrics have really gone through the roof as a result. So across the board, there are many different metrics that we look at that show the justification of continuing to invest here. It's something that we care a lot about. As far as driving our core business, and continue to look to refine those things. But the most important thing for us is we differentiate our purpose from our business outcome. And our purpose is to help these entrepreneurs and business owners succeed. The business outcome that naturally flows out is they do more business with us. And so that's the concept of this reciprocal altruism working in action.
Community and networking is clear. Can you talk a little bit more about how specifically your integration with LinkedIn has helped, and specifically from a lens that some of us might be able to actually leverage or learn from?
Yeah. So prior to our LinkedIn OAuth integration, the only method to join Open Forum today is to use your login credentials via LinkedIn and build your profile that way. Prior to us rolling that out, we had a proprietary registration process, proprietary profile. We built all of this in-house. We did this back in 2006, 2007. What we have seen, this is early days, but we have seen is that the join registration process right now is more than 10 times higher via LinkedIn than it was when we had a proprietary system. And when you think about it, what LinkedIn has been able to do is it's extracted the friction out of the registration process. It's dead simple, especially if you're on LinkedIn and you happen to see an interesting insight or article that someone's written in LinkedIn today, and you click on it and you want to join, you're already logged in, you're already a very targeted individual, you're coming in, joining Open Forum now is just dead simple. Within that, you are also building your profile. It's pulling in through their API information about your title and your company and your industry and your location. So the follow ecosystem within Open Forum itself, and even how you invite other people in, are all based on LinkedIn's capabilities. And so we're already seeing, even though this has been a closed beta, people inviting other people via their LinkedIn connections as the primary driver of new membership.
So if I could just follow on that then, if the specific integration is you have a community, LinkedIn is a community where someone's already signed in, same way if I'm using Facebook to sign up for Airbnb or whatever. Are there other simpler integrations that you guys have seen or played with before you decided to take that step?
Yeah, so this was absolutely an evolution, and it started very basic. We, from the very early days of just putting the LinkedIn share button on the site, to then moving into the LinkedIn OAuth via commenting. And each step that we went down, we saw massive improvements. Once we put the share button, share through, that went up. Then once we put in commenting, our commenting doubled almost overnight. Then we built out our API, our RSS of all the content we were creating and put it through LinkedIn Today, and that spiked. And so every time we did something new with LinkedIn, it had a pretty significant impact in targeted volume and engagement. And so this next stage of it, of really pulling in the profile and leveraging it as our registration and profiling piece, was the logical step for us in extracting a lot of actually build and tapping into the network that LinkedIn has.
What specific profile of small business owners did you active than others? Because one of the things we learn, we have over 1 million small business customers. And one of the things we learn is that they like to be segmented per industry, for instance, and don't like, I'm unique. What do you learn on this standpoint on Open Forum?
Yeah, I think so. The uniqueness, this is the hardest part about business owners, is there are 25 million business owners across the US, but they're all unique. And they believe they are unique, and they are, which is a hard group of people to acquire and manage. So what we started with on Open Forum is trying to tackle more universal challenges, whether it's how to manage email marketing that so many businesses are looking for advice on, social media, to general leadership, how to hire or fire employees. So those universal challenges resonated very well. What we're doing, and the reason why this is important for us, is now with this greater customization, the ability for every single entrepreneur to create their own personal feed of things that they care about, they get to self-select. They care about marketing and SEO, or they don't. They care about a specific industry, or they don't. And so for us, trying to narrow all that in ourselves is tremendously difficult. I mean, we spend a lot of time doing that, but to have each individual be able to self-select in, or because they're bringing in their LinkedIn profile, it automatically defaults to some of these things, I think is really encouraging for us going forward. The last thing I'd say on it is, one of the things that we have found is pretty obvious is when you look at businesses, they kind of follow this S-curve of growth. Start off, they've got a lot of ideas and concepts, and all of a sudden they take off if they're successful, and then they get to a point where they start to plateau out. Where we found where we can help a lot is that middle area, where that trajectory really climbs, because that's when they're facing new and more challenging things that they hadn't faced before at such a rapid pace, and they're looking for answers. Once they're at the top and things are starting to level off, they've figured things out, and they actually don't want to mess with the things that are working. And when they're really early stage, they're not even sure which way they're going to go, so it's hard to give those people direction. So I'm not saying that that's the only space that we focus on, but that's the bullseye that I think we can offer the most help within Open Forum.
So I know you saw the most success with LinkedIn, and you're integrated with LinkedIn now, but can you talk a little bit about what you're doing on the other networks, like Facebook? Or?
I don't know, am I allowed to talk about this, people?
Of course.
All right. So, no, in all seriousness, I mean, you saw, we're not exclusively working with LinkedIn. So I have responsibility for social media within Open, our business unit, and we have a very large presence on Facebook and Twitter. Open Forum has close to 200,000 followers on Twitter, and within our Small Business Saturday Facebook experience, we have millions of business owners that are following what we're doing and what we're trying to do. So I think what's important to know is what's unique about each of the social networks, what do they provide, and how do you leverage it in different ways. So Small Business Saturday is an example, and I'm assuming a lot of people know about this, but it's the Saturday after Thanksgiving, where we really try to champion people to go shop locally, shop at small businesses. And in this most recent year, it's only a few years old, we had over 100 million people go out and shop small, support the business. And I don't think that we would have had that success. I mean, to go in from 0 3 years ago to 100 million people going and shopping locally, to have people like President Obama go out and support that, you don't get that just by trying to market it through your own channels. It was really built on Facebook, and it went viral, and it really created this movement. And so Facebook has been extraordinarily important to us, and we'll continue to invest there. But this is that was driving consumers into small businesses. This is a different approach. This is a place where business owners are seeking advice. And where better to get that advice than over 200 million professionals that are dealing with it every single day. So we very much try to figure out what problem are we solving for our customers, and which social networks is going to be able to help us the most to solve that problem.
Great. I actually have one more question as well. I know that Open Forum, it's live now, but it's still, as you mentioned, in beta mode. I mean, you'll be releasing new things each week. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your plans to market it across all the networks, and just in terms of just marketing plans in general.
So I'd say it's early days as far as marketing. We're still trying to refine the product, and we're very cautious on our growth until we get that product right. So I probably can't talk a lot about the traditional marketing of that. Where we're experimenting, as you know, is if people are seeking advice, how do we facilitate them getting that advice back as quickly as possible? And that's why the LinkedIn Today is really interesting. That's why the integration in some of these social channels. We've definitely been, we have a LinkedIn group. We're looking at how do we take some of the questions that are being asked, the advice that's being shared, put it into a group. How do you get that out via Twitter or potentially Facebook in a way that's going to move businesses over their challenges faster? And I think for the next few months, we're really focused still on the product. We got another release next week, which is really focused on refining the give and get advice experience. Right now, I'm not quite happy with that experience, so we're going to release some pretty good changes next week. We've got another big release a couple weeks after, so we've got a good rhythm of continuing to enhance where we are. But I'm hoping in the next few months we're at a place where we have a good enough product that organically and virally it grows pretty significantly.
Any other questions? I know we have time for one more, maybe.
I was just wondering about what are the resources you have internally, and how does that proportionate to the rest of your digital budget?
Oh, that's a good question. It's very small. It's not enough. Whatever the percentage is, it's not enough. No, so I actually, I'll have to look into the percentage. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, we do invest pretty heavily in this, and as you can see, we've invested for many years. And I give Susan Sabat, our president, a lot of credit for, I mean, I talked about the financial crisis. We were dealing with a lot of challenges ourselves, and not once was there a thought that we were going to move away from this. So that's her leadership, and I'm thankful and owe her a ton because I get to work on this, and it's a lot of fun. But we do invest pretty heavily. I've got a team of people that this is what they do, and they do it every day and all day. And we've got a great group of partners that we work with, and you know, it's not a small investment, but we feel pretty confident that the investment we're making is paying huge dividends. I'll look into that, although so I'm not giving you the best answer, but maybe we can talk offline. I can hunt that down.
Maybe one more? Did you have another question here? Yeah.
So this might feel like ancient history to you now, but you were talking about creating the publishing platform that you built. I was curious what that looked like, building that up, and then how that's changed over the years.
So it's not ancient history. It's very, very fresh in my mind. So when we started, we probably didn't do this the right way. It was such early days that a lot of the technology that's out there wasn't available. And so we built a proprietary system. We did work with some outside vendors and paid pretty significantly from licensing costs and so forth. In the last year, we've really revamped the underlying architecture of the publishing platform. We leverage pretty heavily WordPress now. We're, for the technical folks, LampStack. And we're really trying to take a very open source approach to keep our costs down, and quite frankly, to take advantage of all the innovation that's happening in the open source space. So not to get too geeky on people, but I'm happy to talk offline about the specifics, but it's definitely not ancient history. If anything, because we started early, it forced us to go on some systems that we probably shouldn't have done had we started fresh today. But I'll be around, so I'm happy to talk about these questions or anything else. And thank you, everyone.